Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. John and I would like to welcome you all to Kilcooly's, to Ballybunion and to the 4th Annual Women in the Media Weekend. Thank you all for coming. I know a lot of you have travelled good far distances, but there's plenty of locals here as well, so that's great. And you're all very welcome, and we're delighted to have you. And we hope those of you who are staying with us will enjoy your stay as much as we will enjoy having you with us. Women in the Media creates a unique opportunity for like-minded women and men to discuss the challenges and issues facing women in male-dominated industries and the media industry as a whole, all while enjoying our beautiful countryside here in Ballybunion. Continue to grow year on year and have been overwhelmed by the response and willingness of Ireland's top journalists and politicians for the wisdom, who share the wisdom, support and encouragement to us here for the last 4 years. Before I begin, I just want to take a little minute to congratulate Dee Forbes, who was here last year, and on her appointment as Director General in RTE. She joined us here last year. We are delighted she has taken the top role, and we are sure it's going to be a step that will inspire many young women throughout the country. So this year, Women in the Media is bigger and better, I think, than ever before. I was delighted to be able to expand our event to include not only symposiums and discussions on media, but sport, literature and politics. Tonight, we could think of nobody better than someone who is not only a founder, commissioner of GSOC, but spent many years at the helm of the Irish Times as editor. From his time as Garda Ombudsman to his long career in media, he has extensive experience working within industries where women have been underrepresented. He has time and time again used his position as editor to influence and increase discussion around women in media and fought for gender equality throughout his career. We are delighted he has joined us, and having spoken to him on a number of occasions leading up to tonight, I know we were in for a most enjoyable and very interesting experience. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please give a warm welcome to Mr. Conor Brady.
Thanks, Joan, for those very warm words. It's a great honour and a great joy to be here at this very unique conference now in its 4th year and going obviously from strength to strength. The last time I was in Ballybunion was in 1999 when I travelled here with other Irish Times journalists to bury our much loved colleague Mary Cummins, who was from the town here. Her father was the local Garda sergeant, and we brought Mary back here after she lost her long struggle with cancer at a relatively young age. And I should say, by the way, there's a wonderful book which has been published by a group of people, including her classmates from the St. Joseph's School, the Sister of Mercy's secondary school here in Ballybunion, where she went to school, where she received her education. And I would commend it to all of you. There's some lovely pictures of Mary in here and some lovely memories. In fact, if I may digress briefly, there's one piece I would like to just read. I think it just conveys a lovely impression of how things were back in easier times in the late 50s and the 1960s. And this is written by a friend of ours, Peggy O'Rourke O'Connor. And I won't keep it long with you, but I just think it's a beautiful pen picture. Back in St. Joseph's, we were in a very small Leaving Cert class, and many of the girls from the town had left home, so myself and Mary spent even more time together. Most days after school we would take the long way home, with both of us walking the men's strand, then back by the Yellow Point and along the long strand at the foot of the golf course. We would sort out all the pressing school issues, and of course we would mix world affairs with singing the pop songs of our time. Elvis was big then in Ballybunion. I remember, Peggy says, I remember how Mary would stop sometimes and quote her father with great sincerity. It would go something like this: there's many a Ballybunion man lives today in the big cities of England, Australia or America who dreams about this beautiful place and wonders if we will ever see it again. Enjoy it while you can and never forget it. It always made us pause and we would stand and watch the breakers rushing into the sand and disappearing or crashing at the black rocks or against the majestic cliffs and sending flurries of foam high into the sky. We were often hypnotised by that mighty winter sea. Then it was back to sit at the windowsill at the barrack corner for a final break, watching the world go by before going home for tea and study. Isn't that lovely?
It's lovely.
I don't know if Peggy O'Rourke is here with us, but if she is, I would say she possibly lost her career in journalism too. Lovely English. Mary Cummins was not the first, but she was one of the first of that extraordinary cohort of women journalists whose writings literally transformed not just the lives of Irish women, but Irish society as a whole, in harmony with many other influences, political, legal, social, but the journalism was very much a part of that process. Almost 2 decades have passed since Mary died, and a lot of those who were her good friends and her strong colleagues at that time have also passed away. Maeve Binchy, Mary Holland, Nola O'Fellon, my 2 great friends in the Irish Times, Caroline Walsh and Christina Murphy, Nolene Dowling, Mary Punch, and Joan Levine, of course. It's important too to recall that some of the women who were challenging the established order and their contributions to Irish journalism even earlier than these, and sometimes we tend to start in the 1960s at that cohort, Foley's babes as they were called in the Irish Times. There were also Cougal's babes in the Irish press. But 2 in particular I think are always important to remember who even preceded that cohort. One was Eileen O'Brien, who wrote, she started the first social column, not a social column in the sense of parties and dances, but a column concerned with social issues in the Irish Times, and she called it a social sort of column. She was a wonderful lady, she was from Galway. Her dad was a professor in Galway, and she wrote with enormous passion and insight. And of course the other, her namesake, the great Kate O'Brien from nearby Limerick, who better remembered obviously as a novelist, a wonderful novelist, woman ahead of her time in so many respects, but for many years through the late 50s and 60s wrote in the Irish Times with scathing commentary on so many aspects of Irish society in a weekly column entitled Long Distance. I think it's fair to say that the targets, looking back now, the targets of campaigning journalism in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s were in a sense easily enough identified, and the necessary remedies were easily enough defined, although not easily attained. But it is the great credit of Irish journalism that the men and women who worked there at that time played such an honourable and courageous role in bringing Irish society, helping to bring Irish society, as I said, along with others, out of that rather dark period. Things have moved on since then, and perhaps the thing that may be most significant about women in the last 2 decades, and is the thing that I would like to just dwell on a little this evening, is the advance of women in media beyond creative writing or broadcasting roles into management, into thought leadership, taking over as editors and creators and directors of content. A lot of journalists aren't interested in that. Men and women, they prefer to stay as writers or broadcasters up the front. And some are so gifted and some are so gifted as writers and broadcasters that they would be wasted in management. And we have some wonderful examples of that. Our own Olivia O'Leary, the late Mary Raftery, Orly Guerin, Christiane Annan-Poor, Miriam O'Callaghan indeed in broadcasting. But helping to get women into the management of media was important, and it's one of the things I take particular pride in my 16 years as editor of the Irish Times. Christina Murphy was the first woman assistant editor of any newspaper in Ireland. She was followed shortly by Maeve Ann Wren and Geraldine Kennedy, who went on to be editor, of course. At one point, in fact, in the Irish Times, the women journalists had more or less a clean sweep of all the departments with the exception of sport, and sport is always different. Remember Patsy Murphy was magazine editor, Caroline Walsh was literary editor, Victoria White was arts editor, Maeve Donovan was letters editor. And meanwhile, on the business side of the house, Maeve Donovan was making her way towards becoming managing director. Outside of the Irish Times, you had people like Noreen Hegarty taking over as editor of the Sunday Tribune, Claire Grady at the Independent, Claire Dignan had been head of radio at RTE for quite a while. Anne Harris became editor of the Sunday Independent. Susan Daly became editor of the Journal.ie, and now we have the very unique situation of having both a woman chair of the RTE board, Moya Doherty, and Dee Forbes, as we've heard earlier, taking over as attorney, as Director General, which is going to be very exciting and a very challenging appointment. And of course, there's so many women who share with men so many key executive and managerial roles in the new emerging social media, some of whom we're going to have the opportunity to talk with here later on this evening. The management and the leadership of media organisations is arguably less glamorous and certainly less fun than writing or putting out programmes. But it is crucially important that these functions be discharged with skill and with imagination and with principle. Standards of accuracy and validation have to be enforced, and the work of journalists has to be informed by qualities of humanity and fairness, which very often have to be led from the top. This is especially true in an environment with ever-increasing commercial pressures. Modern media have to be more socially aware than ever in a world where there's often little time for reflection and little appreciation of depth. The qualities of leadership and judgment that are thus demanded are not exclusive to either sex, but I would suggest that some of them may sometimes find more complete expression in women than in men. That would be my experience in managing media leaders, certainly in print. The challenges facing those in leadership in media today are immense. I'm very glad to say I don't have to do that anymore. I think I'd be terrified to face the challenges. Traditional business models, funding models in the media have broken down, and it's not at all clear what they will be replaced with, if indeed they will be replaced with anything that is viable in the long term. It was interesting to hear Noel Curran, the outgoing Director General at RTE, yesterday acknowledging that the licence fee, for example, is no longer fit for purpose. So that raises questions. How do we fund newsrooms? How do we pay for good journalism, as distinct from cheap infotainment and recycled celebrity news? How do we train and equip and protect media personnel who are reporting from conflict zones, rather than leaving it to freelance kids with iPhones trying to get a toehold for themselves in their careers? Some models are emerging. There are a number of very successful philanthropic foundations, such as, for example, the Mary Raftery Foundation, upon whose board I have the honour to serve with Olivia O'Leary, the Simon Cumber Foundation, and indeed, as we saw most recently, the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists who turned out the famous Panama Papers. And that may be one model of funding which we may go to for the future, where money may not actually, money for serious journalism, some of it at least may have to come from philanthropic or from well-meaning sources, rather than actually being taken out of revenues which increasingly simply aren't there for media. But these are conditions, I would suggest, in which limited resources are going to have to be used very skillfully and very thoroughly, very thoughtfully, I should say. Judgment calls will become more difficult. Choices will have to be made between competing priorities. The pressure to allow the urgent drive out the important will increase. The instincts of commercial management to drive down costs, especially against a backdrop of revenue uncertainty, will have to be countered. It's going to be a very big challenge to see if this generation of women editors, managers and leaders can bring Irish journalism through the hugely challenging territory that lies ahead. it's probably a tougher test than anything that has gone before for Manana Éireann in the media. Thank you.